everybody. Welcome to Improv FAQ at Length. This is a series of longer conversations about improv topics that have lots of questions surrounding them. I'm James Quesada.
And I'm Bob Wick.
And we are joined by two special guests, Beth Kolbicz and Jennifer Socia. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you.
And so this is going to be a show and tell episode where we talk about shows that we've been part of and what we learned from them. So the show we wanted to talk to you two about was a show originally called the All American Clusterfuck, and also had a holiday version. What was the name of the holiday version again?
It was a Very Merry Clusterfuck.
So I think it's a very cool show, and there's a lot of stuff about it that I really like and want to talk about. But to just start us off, what would you say is the short description of that show?
I feel like it is a hour-long sketch show that was designed to look like it was falling apart, but it was very well planned out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's awesome. So it's basically like a review style sketch or variety. So is there a story behind what how it came to be, other than just want to do a show together? And I'm one of the things I'm most interested in is just the landing on that title.
Well, as I recall, and who knows, my memory might be Brian Williams.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So I don't know. At that point, I think we'd both been doing shows for quite a while. And I guess I think I asked you, Mary Beth, to do it. So. And just, I don't know. I just wanted to do a show with Mary Beth because I thought we both had the same sort of weird sense of humor. And up to that point, the shows that I had done had either been like written with like very large casts for the most part, or were kind of more of like a straight ahead sketch, or like mostly like straight ahead kind of sketch shows. And I don't know, I just wanted to do something weird, or I just wanted basically to be able to do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah, that was how you pitched it to me, and I was like, okay, sounds good. I would like that too.
Yeah, so Go Comedy and Planet Ant too. I feel like the Metro Detroit scene is really influenced by Second City from the years that there was a Second City in Detroit, and also being like close to Chicago. And like the sketch processes that you had been part of, like all kind of follow the same sensibilities, right? And so you were just kind of like, I don't want to like have to abide by that template sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was very much, we just wanted to do our own thing, like something that we would find funny and interesting to watch, I feel.
Yeah. And I think that we both have like, I don't know if I'd call it a weird sense of humor, but we definitely find a lot of the same things funny. And a lot of that is like very over the top, very, I don't know.
Yeah.
Destructive is not the right word.
Weird is correct. Like kind of like
destructive.
I wouldn't say twisted, but like, I don't know. Like basically our Christmas show is Halloween themed, like weird stuff like that.
Right.
We also we'll take an idea and latch onto it and then like dive in too deep to it. And I think we both do that as well.
Yeah, I think like in the past, a lot of times like getting ready to do a show, it felt like I'd have an idea and everybody would feel like, what the fuck? But when I tell Mary Beth, she's like, I love it. So
to be clear, I also first say, what the fuck? And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
we can do it.
Yeah, it's very I don't know if the term alt comedy is very helpful, because that really just is like stuff that's not necessarily mainstream, but it doesn't have a real genre or style to itself. Alt comedy, but I think that is what comes to mind when I think of the style that you two have, and especially completely leaned into in that show. At the outset of the writing process, did you two have like how did you figure out what you were aiming at and chip away at the final product without the usual templates and sensibilities?
I think we met up at a bar. We usually were drinking, and we pulled up a Google Doc, and like we would just write down every single idea that we came up with until we eventually found a theme, I think is what we did, right? For at least the first couple, I think we did that. I think the first one, I think the general theme was be as trashy American as possible. If I recall.
Yes, that was.
So yeah, our doc was filled with things like too many extension cords and like things like that. And then we figured out how to then bring those like single word ideas to the show.
Cool. Was there anything, given that you were trying to do exactly what you wanted and shake off whatever other norms, were there what sorts of things did you learn through the writing process? Are there any like major takeaways from being able to do things that way, completely your own way? You didn't have a director, right? It was just the two of you writing.
No, it was just us.
That's correct. We also directed them.
Yeah, we did.
Well, to be honest, I couldn't think of someone who would be a good fit to direct you guys. You're your own
Yeah.
entity. Like,
I think that one major takeaway from this process that I learned is that if you don't rehearse at all, there's gonna be problems. But if you write a show that's meant to have problems, then it works.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think like part of what I learned is like there is an investment in trying to do something that is completely your own for one night. And like there's like a beauty in that because you do it one time, you can do whatever you want. You're able to do like these outlandish things, but it's not sustainable to do them over and over. Like for the first one, we had to buy these like fake doors that we painted because we kicked through them to come on stage to start. We got my boss to sing songs. We filled up a bunch of drop boxes with like fast food that rained down on us at the end. Like,
and then like threw it at full force at the audience.
Yeah, we did. My dad got hit in the head with a cheeseburger at the end.
Yeah. I think in the second one, we dumped runny pudding on my head in the very first sketch. So then I just had that on me for the whole show. So like it's a lot to do that many times, but doing it one time is fun.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like there's got to be a trade-off for, the pros and cons are that you unfortunately only get to do it once. So you don't get the repeatability of something that you really are excited about, but you can go completely all out because you're not worried about repeatability.
Right.
And you have no reason to hold on to anything for like closing night. Opening night is closing night.
And I think there was like a lot of magic that came out of the one night only thing because it was like we had again, they were very well planned out. Like we knew exactly what we wanted to happen, but then it was like, all right, let's see what's actually going to happen. Because again, like we rehearsed the sketches in it a little bit, but we didn't rehearse the parts that weren't fully scripted. It was like 2 beats and we had an idea of what we wanted to do, but it was just like, let's see if it works. So I think also that came through for the audience of the show is they get to find out along with us if it's going to work and what's going to happen.
Yeah. And the other part of that I think was nice was like we had sketches and we had like some pieces that were like loosely improvised. And the thing that was really nice about that is we were able to bring in people who maybe didn't have as much experience doing shows and like to be able to say like, hey, like I like know you don't have much experience. I think you're super funny. Do you want to do this like bit part in this? I think was like a really cool piece of it as well.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think Who did we have in the first one? I think we had Shivani, Chris Fortin, and Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And they were all brand new, so like they hadn't
Yeah.
they hadn't done shows really that much, and we got to have them in ours, and they did whatever we told them to. It was very fun to like put on this, take this bag of like random clothes we found and make an outfit, and we'll judge you, like that kind of stuff. Stuff that doesn't sound like it would work, but then it worked.
Yeah. So let's talk about the actual performing of it and audience response. Yeah, because I imagine, again, when you're like, when the goal is let's kind of get free reign on all the things that people, when we usually pitch it, are like, I don't know. And go for it. Like a huge part of the success, I think, especially for comedy and especially for sketch, is your commitment and your belief in it as a performer, selling it. So were there particular scenes or experiences in doing it that felt that way, or like were pleasantly surprising, or missed the mark in ways that you were unhappy about?
I'm mostly remembering the second one. Are we on to the second one yet, or you want me to focus on
Yeah.
Either one, yeah.
the second one moment that stands out to me in the second one of like, this is going way better than like we ever could have known, is we blasted a Celine Dion Christmas song, and we just ran around passing out little wrapped like Halloween toys, but like they were Christmas presents, and we gave one to every single audience member, and then we just ran around like yelling the lyrics and like throwing stuff at each other for like a good 4 to 5 minutes. We did this, and like everyone was very into it.
Yeah, we individually thanked every single member of the audience.
Yeah,
and
we're
gave
like,
them
thank
a
you for
gift.
being here. Here's a present. Thank you for being here. There were some people that I went to high school with that I didn't know well, and I don't know that they knew that they even knew me, that were there. And I was like, oh, thank you for being here. I haven't seen you in like 15 years. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that specifically was one of those bits where like we start and people laugh and like, oh, haha, like they're gonna do it, and then for a couple of minutes they're like, they're not gonna thank every single person. We're like, yes, we fucking are.
And then we're gonna make you listen to the rest of the song because
yeah,
I think we just were tossing them into the audience. I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah, then so as you said, the Very Merry Clusterfuck, or the supposedly
I can listen to you say clusterfuck over and over again, Jay.
You always seem so confused. Like, are you doing? Is it really the title of the show?
Oh yeah. Well, on that one, I was trying. It was Very Merry Clusterfuck, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then also, but that reminds me. Before I get to the question I was going to ask, I gotta know what kind of did PJ or whoever have any pushback on Clusterfuck, or
yeah.
I think so. And we're like, no, we're doing it. And he's like, eventually did. I think the trickiest thing was maybe like I remember the poster went up.
Oh, but say the poster.
The poster went up for the 4th of July one, right at the same time as the kids camp was going on. So I think that there was like some weirdness with that.
So right next to each other on the double doors.
Yeah.
Well, the compromise there, it was like I sincerely do in a way feel for PJ in dealing with me through those, because I had such like, I felt super duper strongly, and I think like I was usually the one that at that time was mostly in contact with him about things.
Yeah, because I was still relatively new when we were doing. I think I had been doing shows. Was that in 2015 that we did that first one? I think I did my first show in 2014, so I didn't know PJ really well yet, enough to force him to name a show Clusterfuck.
Yeah, I felt very comfortable with my demands. So, but I mean, yeah, that was the thing. He's like, does it have to be this? And I said, yes, it does have to be that, because this is, it's exactly what it is. It's the perfect title.
Right.
And he's
Yeah.
like, there will be
You
children.
know what
in
you're
the
walking
lobby.
into. Yeah.
There
Yeah,
will be
Well-
children.
and I mean, the title came up because when we were talking about what we wanted it to be like, and we had this like whole like all American thing going, we were like, we just wanted to be like, it's a clusterfuck, and we were like, yeah, that's it.
That's
So
what it is.
I think the compromise for the poster was that we like, I don't know, put some like symbols instead of it saying
Yeah, did
necessarily.
the
Yeah.
cartoon swearing rather
It
than
didn't. Yeah,
Right.
it didn't quite fully say clusterfuck, but you knew what it meant. The Christmas one did the Christmas one?
I don't recall.
Um,
It may have.
I know that the first one did not fully say clusterfuck, but
That I mean, that is so what I love about it is that again, for being something that is it just really says exactly what you want it to be, and like you said, Jenny, and it's uncompromising, and I'm jealous of a title like that, because usually, you know, I put a lot of thought into naming my shows, and I think I come up with good names. Once you know what the show is, you're like, oh, that's a good name for the show. But All American Clusterfuck makes you want to know what the show is.
Yeah,
Which is a better
that's good
way
marketing.
of pulling people in. Is that like, it doesn't matter what it is. I want it to be what I think it is based on the title, or be like, there's no way for me to be you know, bummed. Like, you're promising
not a lot.
No,
lot.
we promised very little each time.
And that's what they got. But like fun. We did win an award for the first one, I will say. We did
Yes,
have pyrotechnics.
We did have pyrotechnics. We like, it was really freeing to just kind of do whatever we wanted to do. Like we had a lot of help too from like our friends and other people in the community. Like in the first
Absolutely.
one, we had a whole scene where that Mary Beth wrote where I was just a giant ET. Like I was ET. And that was, and we had our friend Ted and Jen Hansen made a gigantic ET foam head that I put on my body.
Uh-huh.
We had,
I think they made the lizards as well, right?
yeah, they made lizard heads for a sketch
yeah.
we had called McLizens, which was about being at like a Hooters style restaurant with male lizard stripper surfers, I guess.
Oh, that classic premise. Yeah.
Also worked very well, better than you'd imagine. That sketch I liked particularly because that was like, we weren't in character. That was like, so basically the premise was like Jenny always got into a situation where like she had to like get a lap dance by these lizard men. And so I was genuinely laughing at her about that happening on stage in front of an audience.
Yeah, and I was genuinely like
Horrified.
uncomfortable. Yes, and I wrote it. But it was very real.
Oh, you did it to yourself. Oh my.
She did. And then she did it again for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how was it being self-directed? Were there difficulties that came along with that, or was it also just pretty freeing and gelled well with what you were trying to do?
I'm trying to. We did it full. We didn't have someone come in and do the sketches for those ones, did we? It was just fully us.
It was just fully us for those.
Okay. I mean, I don't remember it going poorly. I think that it worked because it was like we knew what we wanted it to be so much that we were able to like step outside of it and see it as a director and being in it. I know typically that doesn't work very well, and we went away from that a little bit down the road when we did Unruly Women, but for this one time only show, like it worked.
Yeah.
For me anyway. I don't know
Oh
how
yeah.
Jenny feels, but
I hated it. I hated everything. No, I thought it worked really well. Because like Mary Beth said, we knew what we wanted. And I think even like when we did get some help directing, we just like had such a strong vision of what we wanted. Like when we did like the Unruly Women, like we did have some directing, but it was like we just both knew what we wanted so clearly. And I think that we had like a lot of good give and take when we were like co-directing and writing it. Like, so I don't know. I think that when we work together, we just have such a strong, like clear vision of what we're doing and what we want, that bringing in a third person can be a struggle.
Yes. We work it out for so long before we actually get to rehearsing and putting it up, that we're both on exactly the same page.
That's cool.
And it worked out to the point where like the two Clusterfucks are probably the only two shows I've ever done that turned out exactly as I imagined they would turn out. Like everything went, for the most part. I think there were a couple more hiccups in the second one than the first one, but it did go very well.
That's awesome. I would say you guys have really cool, big imaginations. Like we're talking about male stripper lizards and everything. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to write big like you do, but have that, I don't know, that negative judge on their shoulder, like, oh, you can't do lizard people because how are you going to get these masks? Or, like you talk to people who try to write and they hold themselves back for some reason, and you two have none of that. Well, what's your secret?
I don't know. I think I'm just full of myself, and I just think I can do whatever I want to do. Yeah.
Show me your soul.
Yeah. I think that I mean, there is, you do have to keep in mind that you're writing for the stage, but I think that you can always find ways to do things. And it may make it messy, or it may not be like the most technically perfect show, but you can always find ways to do things that you dream up. You just have to like put some extra thought into it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, especially like when you're doing regional sketch improv type stuff, like, and maybe like anywhere with anything, like you really don't have a lot to fucking lose. So if what is really funny to you is some bizarre, big, weird shit, like write it and you'll find a way to make it work. Like you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I'm very big into like writing for myself mostly. Like I will keep the audience in mind if it's like a certain show that's like a regular show and they're expecting something. But for something like this, like I want it to be what I want it to be, I guess. So just write for yourself and then figure out how to make it happen after that.
Yeah. You have to turn off that skepticism, because it sounds like what really works for you two is that you have so much of the shared sensibilities and getting on the same page that you both have the vision, so you both have the belief that something's going to work. So it's not like there's no naysaying. But I would also guess that if either one of you was really psyched to try and pull something off and the other person just wasn't understanding it, that you would be like, regardless, I'm on board, because if you see it, then I'm sure we can do it.
Yeah.
And that as opposed to being like, when you don't see it, exactly what the other person is going for is trying to like poke holes in it or be like, maybe we'll just wait for something else. It's like, if you're jazzed about it, I'm willing to step out of your way to make sure.
Go for the ride.
Yeah. I will say there are like many ideas that Jenny would pitch me that I would be like, all right, put it in the doc, in the idea doc. And we didn't revisit them.
No, I know. I agree.
Like there has not been a show yet with a never-ending salad bar in it.
Okay, but I remembered what the never-ending salad bar was recently.
What is it?
It's a person that goes to a never-ending salad bar and they think they're at the end, and there's somebody at the end that's like this like weird like innkeeper type person who's like, no, you have to keep going, and that's it, over and over and over again, and they're just stuck in the salad bar forever. Now, will that work on stage? I don't know, probably not, maybe. But I honestly like don't care because it makes me laugh. If somebody was like, if
maybe
somebody,
someday.
I know we need like a really long theater.
Right.
We just use all of 9 Mile.
So, okay, hopping back over to the actual performance of the show. My question about the holiday show. You mentioned earlier that you made your Christmas clusterfuck a Halloween show, and so I don't know with big weird things like that, or any of the weirder scenes, like what other kinds of audience response did you get that were memorable to you in doing the shows?
I
Like,
think
go ahead.
there was at the end of this isn't the Halloween one. This is the 4th of July one again. But at the end of that, I mentioned we had pyrotechnics. So we took the idea of too many extension cords, and like we had like this big finale that we were acting like we were trying to get going, but like it wasn't working. So the idea was like we would just keep plugging in chords and trying to figure out how to make this finale work. And at one point I plug in a chord, and then Jenny threw water on me. And so there was sparks that shot out, which hadn't happened. It didn't work, I don't think, until the time we did it on stage. It was really, we were really unsure how that was the finale of the show wasn't working. It did work on stage, but I think that there were a lot of people that genuinely thought that like she electrocuted me on stage. Like there were people that seemed very startled by it.
Oh, no. They were very concerned.
Yeah, and I think we wrote that whole bit around. I just wanted, to me, something very very American is that people that don't change their smoke detector batteries. So I wanted like the beep to go for the rest of the show periodically. And so we like worked up to that so that there could be like that fire and a smoke detector would be going off. And then that beep, it did work well enough that I think throughout the ending, when we were doing like our outro, Shivani kept looking for the beep as though she was in her own home trying to figure out where it was coming from. But yeah, I think that big ending was received very well by the audience. And then again, the Celine Dion thing I liked a lot.
Yeah,
So
I think
go ahead, Jenny.
one of the things that surprised me the most, like, was how quickly the audience trusted us. It just like, I don't know what it was, because I've done lots of shows where the audience did not trust me, nor should they have. It's fine.
Yeah. And we didn't earn it for these shows either. Like we just jumped right in.
I think that's the beauty of the name. Like you didn't promise them anything, so like there's no promises to be broken. Like, hey, you play for a clusterfuck, you know what you're getting into.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's right. Like when you come, a show's called a Clusterfuck, and you come in on December 23rd, and the theater's covered in spider webs and like witches. Right. You just from the get-go are like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the day, we would get there very early the day of the show, and I remember the manager at the time walking in and seeing what we were doing and just going like, "You too," like, okay. One thing that did surprise me in terms of like an audience reaction was in the first one when we did the ET sketch. A couple people told me that they got emotional when they heard the ET music and saw ET come out. And I thought, I was like, oh my God. I don't know. I just didn't expect that any part of our show would make people feel emotional in that way.
They had that kind of connection. I didn't know that. That's very funny.
That's awesome.
But I think we did a lot of stuff in that particular sketch. Like I built the flowers so that the flowers could come to life, like in the movie. So there was like a lot of nods of like, and like surprises like that when they worked, were well received and everyone seemed to like. I can't think of anything that like didn't go well, that or like anything that wasn't well received in those shows.
Well, yeah, again, I mean, like it's probably good branding or marketing or whatever, like the way that you present the show, and people in the community know you two enough to by that point to like get the sensibility. So you know, it's very fortunate to find your audience, but if you do, then yeah, like, and again, I feel like a good title has a lot to do with that. Bob and I have talked about, like, how do you make sure, I don't know, like in different, if you're doing like taboo driven or edgy comedy, like one of the ways that you can avoid ambushing or you know, rubbing the audience the wrong way is to make sure that it's kind of built into your message of the show, from the title to the description, like what you're gonna go see. So, like, you know, you probably just nailed the draw of people who are like, this sounds like my flavor, you know?
Yeah. We also, for that show, we did a lot of like PR that lent itself to that as well. And to get that audience, we would post like very cryptic Facebook statuses being like, if we were to do something, like we always made it seem like it was going to be a mess. And then
Right.
I think with Jenny and the Bets, that helped a lot as well. We would do that during Matt Noss's variety show. And that was essentially a clusterfuck in itself, where I would bet Jenny that she couldn't do something. And the idea was supposed to be that she could, and the audience member was going to do a prize, but then she couldn't do it. And it was always something gross and horrifying and embarrassing for her.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Can you remind me of one of those?
Yeah. Did I make you eat hard boiled eggs with like Sunday toppings?
Yeah, it was.
I think so.
It was really sick. There was one that was like, I don't even remember what it was. It was like I had to blow up. So while this is going on, Mary Beth is playing Benny and the Jets on the melodica and singing Jenny and the Jets. So I have like a minute to do this, but I had to like blow up a swimmy pool thing, put on swim cap and goggles, and then I had to eat like tartar sauce and cherry pie.
Oh, yeah, you did have to do that. And maybe maple syrup also. Was that all the same thing?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it was like for the audience, for like, you might win a MacBook. Like we brought out like a MacBook.
It was like an empty box. Yeah.
It was, I mean, yeah, it was just really disgusting. And
wait, I actually don't remember the audience part. What was the promise to the audience? Like you picked up,
if she pulled it off.
Yeah, we picked a person, and if Jenny did what I bet her she couldn't do, they won the prize. But she never did it. Although there were some moments where you were like, I just wanted to do it because I knew that I could.
Yeah.
I was like, you can. I don't really have a MacBook to give away. But
I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, part of, I think, maybe what makes that work or our shows work is that, like, once we get into something, we just fully commit. Like, I was just like, this is disgusting, but there is this competitive, dumb, bro-y part of me that's just like, I could do that, whatever. And I'm fully in it when we're doing that.
Yeah. I think that when we auditioned that, because Matt did not trust us, he's like, you must audition.
That is true.
We're like, okay. And I think I made you, if we had to try out, and I think you had to put on like a child's Halloween costume and eat a can of baked beans, which turns out Jenny does not like baked beans.
Oh,
and I didn't know that.
Oh, no.
So that added to it. And then like, I don't think Matt no one, if you hadn't seen it before, you don't expect me to start playing Benny and the Jets on the melodica. So there's like that aspect of like, what is she playing? Because it's just like chords until I start like singing along. And then watching Jenny do this like ridiculous, disgusting thing while Matt holds the phone with a countdown timer on it. It was exciting.
That is one thing. That's like another example of something that we were both like, this is brilliant. And people were like, I don't know. We're just like, just please trust us.
You gotta see it.
Yeah. And then we'd be like, if you liked that, come see our show, The Clusterfuck. And then people came. So
yeah.
So wait a minute. Did you had to audition?
Yes.
Jenny, you twice had to do this like you had, like in the audition you would have to do the hard-boiled eggs and Sunday toppings.
We only auditioned one time. So we just had to audition like the premise. So we only had to audition the one time. And then he's like, okay, you can continue to do this.
Okay.
All right.
Man, that if you had to do everything twice over, that would just
That
No, like and the whole day, I would just dread it. The whole day, I'd be like, why am I humiliating myself?
Did you know what the bet was
make
going to be the
people
whole
laugh?
day?
No.
No, but I
no?
did. So I would like taunt her.
So she taught me all day, and I'm like, what am I fucking doing? Like, what is this like? Why do I choose this kind of comedy? What kind of hatred do I have for myself? And then we do it, and it'd be super fun. I'd be like, oh, that was so
Yeah.
fun.
I would text you and be like, "Hey, are you vegan this week? Like, what can I do?"
Yeah, but for that kind of comedy to work, like you guys were saying, you just have to go for it. And I think that's what really brought everybody on board, because there was no hesitation. Like, I guess this is my punishment for being this kind of, improviser. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah. So, if you were gonna do the next clusterfuck from scratch, start over and do it again, whenever it's allowed.
When there's a theater.
never ending salad bar. Sketch 1. Done. What's next?
If you were
It starts at Pontiac, goes all the way to Ferndale. It's amazing.
What things would you definitely keep the same about your process? What things would you change if you were going to do it again soon?
Man. I feel like this process, I would, for the most, like, I would make sure I wasn't busy during it.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Like, that's one thing that would stress us out, is like if we both had a lot to do and had to put up this one night only show, and like the Christmas one, we had to start collecting our props 2 months early because we knew we weren't going to get Halloween stuff at Christmas time. So like you have to like focus on it for so long. So that would be my one thing. Other than that, I think the process for that show for me worked well.
That's a great point though, about like the successes and the payoffs are so big, but at the same time you do have to wear all the hats if you're going to be writing, rehearsing, developing, directing, performing the show, and you're only accountable to yourself. So like that is the trade-off, is that you really have to have the time and the energy and mental space to organize all that in order to have it pay off the way that it did. How about for you, Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, I think for that show, that process works. I would definitely keep just hanging out and throwing all of our ideas into like a Google Doc or whatever, however you capture ideas, just whatever makes us laugh. Like a theme will emerge. So just keeping that. I mean, yeah, we would have to make sure that we could afford to bankroll it, because it's expensive.
An expensive venture.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm never into. Like, I've directed like one show, a sketch show, and assisted directed one or two others. But that's the thing where I'm like, I love directing improv, because at most you have light and music cues. With sketch, it's like you're responsible for figuring out, especially for like local theater, like the theater doesn't have a budget for you to be like, all right, you get $500 on props. You really do have to just like, not only do you have to buy it, but you have to track it down, and that can take a lot too. If you have this image of like, I want this, then you have to go and find that thing and order it, whether it's shopping early for Halloween props or figuring out who can help you stitch together lizard man heads. That for me, that's a lot of pressure. Do both of you enjoy that though? Is like the seeking out the physical props and whatnot, money aside?
I think I think we split it up pretty well for the, like, we each wrote the same amount of sketches in the show, and then I believe we were responsible for our own sketches. Is that correct? Do I remember that right, Jenny?
I think for the most part that's true. Like, I think there were some like specific things that we each individually might have, like, if like one of the or the other of us needed something, like for example, some of the sketches that we did were like videotaped. So
Oh,
like,
yeah.
where they were filmed, videotaped.
Videotape.
They were video. But I mean, for that, like, we used Mary Beth's home. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, like the home Macy's ones, like we had to, those are unique in that like we had to catch my house when it was like being renovated because like it was supposed to take place in like this very messy environment. So I was like, hey, here's like a spot where all of the stuff from this room is in the middle of the floor. Let's see what we can find in it.
And the idea of home Macy's was that there were these two women who lived together who had a public access show where they would just sell their stuff to you and, and tell stories about the stuff they were selling sometimes. And it just worked out very well.
And they were things like my little sister's first communion pictures, like things like that. And we would like put tags on them and it would say like, Holy Girl, $57, like that. And it's just it's very public accessy. But I did love those a lot. So
those are definitely the kind of premises that you can't get the same effect out of it without having it you know, the props bring it to life or make it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. It's not every style of comedy is for everyone, but there's nothing cooler to me than when people get to do their style at 100%. And so this show is definitely one that just stands out to me as like a really cool example of that. And I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Anything before we let you go? Is there anything that you're up to in the virtual world that you would like to plug?
Yeah, I've been working on a podcast with Julia Schroeder and Katie McGraw. We're trying to support women in professional sports. So we're watching those and chatting about them. They should be up pretty soon. The podcast is called She's Good. Because they're good.
That's awesome.
So that should be coming at you soon. I think you can catch some of them on Julia's YouTube already.
Okay, and we will link, and whenever the most updated or preferred link is available, we'll make sure that we update the description to have it on this video.
Sweet.
Yeah. My maybe less noble quest is doing a podcast to establish a new metal canon. It's called Roach Koach, Coach with a K.
Jenny, all quests are noble in their own way.
I don't know.
That's very noble.
Gotta keep that fan base alive.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a podcast I do with Lauren Kozlowski and Matt Noss. And I think you can go to roachkoach.com. I don't know. I don't know where it is.
Well, I listen to it, and it's wherever you can get your podcast at.
I feel like you just like got the essence of Mary Beth and the essence of me.
Put it in the doc, Jenny. Put it in the doc.
I'm glad your cat showed up in the middle of this. This is great. This is everything.
My cat's eating her own asshole. I'm like, I don't know where my stuff is. You can find it. This is the balance, the delicate balance that makes a clusterfuck work.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, Roach Koach is on Gabber Media podcast network, along with this show, Improv FAQ at length. If you're watching this video, you're either watching it on Facebook or YouTube. But you can also find it anywhere podcasts are found. You should also know that the most up-to-date content is and complete content is going to be on YouTube. We're catching up on Facebook actually, and all of the at length episodes should be current on podcast as well. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch you next time on Improv FAQ at length. Bye.
Bye.